This isn't paradise. This is the current state of mosquito killing in Guangdong province, China. Clouds and mist swirl like a fairyland. It's pesticide hanging in the air. Hand spraying, drone spraying, indoors, outdoors, no corner is spared. Not sure if the mosquitoes are gone, but people are almost sprayed into kidney failure. If I were standing in that heavy chemical haze, I would probably feel my throat tighten and wouldn't know whether to laugh at the absurdity or start worrying about my lungs. The spark for all this is a chikungunya fever outbreak, a mosquito-borne disease that has infected over 9,000 people across Guangdong province in recent weeks. Experience shows that in China, the start of a campaign-style operation is hard to miss. The streets change almost overnight. Banners drape across roadside railings and walls, while electronic billboards flash urgent slogans, light mosquito coils, install window screens. Soon, volunteers fall into orderly lines, using a curious hand-to-hand passing method usually reserved for disaster relief. This time, though, it isn't food or medicine being relayed, but potted plants destined for disposal. Residents must remove saucers, stop hydroponics, and in some areas, potted plants are directly taken away. The first thing you notice in such a campaign is that every possible method is deployed, and compliance is not optional. Spraying is carried out by any means necessary, even if it means unlocking apartments when residents aren't home. The notice explicitly states street staff and police will go door to door for disinfection, locksmiths included. In high-incidence neighborhoods, residents are required to give blood samples for screening. Those who refuse can expect repeated visits from community, pressing them to comply. Some parents have even complained that when they were away, community workers still drew their children's blood. One netizen joked darkly, "Never thought a mosquito outbreak would be a cover for HLA typing. That's the super complicated version of a blood type test doctors use before organ transplants." The measures echo the COVID era. Patients must be hospitalized and isolated, while pharmacies are ordered to register anyone buying medicines for fever, rashes, or joint pain. A Japanese traveler arriving in Guangzhou was asked by airport staff to sign a sampling consent form. Has it really come to the point where such strict control is necessary? I checked the latest figures. By mid-August, Guangdong province had reported over 9,400 cases. Every single one was mild, with no severe cases or fatalities. Another hallmark of these campaigns is the focus on short-term impact. Roadside green belts were shaved down to bare dirt. A century-old longyan tree was felled for mosquito control. Passers-by rushed to strip the branches of fruit while the helpless owner looked on. Who was there to maintain order, and who would compensate the owner? No one seemed to know, and no one seemed to care. The workers sent to cut the tree only carried out the felling, paid to swing the saw, not to answer questions of fairness or loss. The only thing executed with precision was the chopping itself. Potted plants, once carefully nurtured at home, and towering trees alike were scooped up by bulldozers and hauled away for destruction. Critics pointed out the irony. Greenery, once cultivated with care, was now being sacrificed wholesale, and without plants to filter the air and water, new diseases and disasters could follow. Observers quickly drew comparisons, just like Mao's anti-sparrow campaign in the late 1950s, when sparrows were exterminated as pests, only to unleash a locust plague in 1958. One sarcastic comment put it bluntly: why not drain every river and lake in Guangdong? No water, no mosquitoes. Of course, that's impossible. But don't worry, authorities found an even more maddening solution. The drains, too, were not spared. Mesh screens were installed over roadside sewers to block mosquito breeding. Yet, in typhoon-prone Guangdong, where 4 to 6 storms strike each year, residents immediately pointed out the flaw. Once heavy rain arrives, the screens clog with mud and debris, turning drains into bottlenecks. Sure enough, on August 14th, when a typhoon swept through, streets were quickly waterlogged. The mosquito control barriers in the sewers slowed drainage, worsening the flooding. In the dead of night, cars pushed forward with headlights half submerged, water sloshing against their doors. One wrong move and they'd be swept away. Drivers gripped the wheel as if that alone could keep the engine from drowning. Mosquitoes, of course, were nowhere to be seen, only a man-made lake stretching across the city streets. The rain kept falling, and the residents asked, who would take responsibility for removing those mesh screens now? Cars on the road were already nearly submerged, yet life somehow pressed on. An electric scooter buzzed stubbornly through the floodwaters. One man was actually swimming in the flood, apparently beneath an overpass. Was he not afraid of an electrical short circuit? Or had absurdity already become the city's new normal? An entire market ended up underwater, with merchants suffering heavy losses. To be fair, such campaign-style mosquito wars can deliver quick results. In Foshan City, daily new cases dropped to as few as 148, down from a peak of 674 on July 19th. But as always, the long-term cost will be borne by ordinary people. And the timing is almost epic. August 20th is World Mosquito Day. Things usually get a World Blah Blah Day designation for one of two reasons. Either it's so good that it deserves protection, like Earth Day or Arbor Day, or it's so bad that it's become a sworn enemy of humankind. Mosquitoes fall into the latter category. How bad? Historian Timothy C. Weingart estimates that of the 108 billion humans who have ever lived, about 52 billion, nearly half, died from mosquito-borne diseases. I've lived in Singapore, and the world could learn from their approach. There, mosquito control isn't a seasonal blitz. It's a legal obligation. If you refuse inspections or fail to fix problems, you face fines. Repeated offenders risk higher penalties or even court summons. They don't blanket entire cities with chemicals killing beneficial insects and harming the environment. They spray precisely in outbreak clusters. Which leaves us with a simple truth. Wiping out mosquitoes in a frenzy can make headlines, but building long-term prevention system is what really matters. Guangdong's campaign may bring a quick drop in case numbers, but without that long-term system, the next rainy season could bring the next outbreak, mosquitoes and all. Okay, thank you for watching Sue Talk. Hit subscribe, pack your perspective, until next time.